Welcome to Origin Unexplained, where questions linger and answers hide just beyond the veil. I'm your host, Sue, and today we're going to be talking about cryptids and sightings and stuff that we've had. And today's guest is Gail. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I got to take a sip here, actually. Mm, Throat's a little sore. So, we're going to discuss some things that have happened between the two of us, and we're going to start it right off now with stepping back into 1982. So my mother and I are on a road, and it used to be called Smoky Run at one time, and it was in between Alien and Mohawk. And as we were going up the road, my mother said, "Oh my God, Sue, look!" So I look, and she goes, "Is that a crane?" And as I'm looking at it, it sure didn't look like a crane. There was a large, and I mean large, black bird in the sky, and this bird looked like a pterodactyl. It had the part that stuck out in the back of its head. I remember that clearly. And it had a crook in its neck, like it was bent, like just a like an Adam's apple would look. And then the body and the wings were not normal bird wings. They looked like bat wings. I can't remember the tail. I wish I could remember just a little bit anything about that, but I don't really remember a tail on it. And I can't tell you how big this was because it was in the sky. There was nothing to measure it to. Um, I would guess it was probably 100 feet up, maybe. And it wasn't flapping its wings. It moved them a little bit. It was kind of just like gliding on the air. And there have been rumors that there are big birds in Mohawk. So I don't know. I can't answer what that was, but my mom said even the same thing. She goes, "My God, it looks like a pterodactyl." And I'm like, "Yeah." So that was one of the starts of the bizarre encounters that happened in like Mohawk. I mean, this whole area has a lot of cryptid things, but I'm going to turn the mic over to Gail and she's going to tell you a story that's even better.
Well, which I believe was a Bigfoot encounter, it took place in 2008 in Caledonia County, Vermont. Uh, my ex and I had gone out onto a friend of mine's property, which was on a back road and surrounded by swamps. And you had to cross over the swamp to get to, uh, it's like a field.
Mm,
And so we used to like to go out there sometimes in the evening and watch the stars and stuff. And so this one night we were out there and we're in the middle of the field with his truck and it's quiet, but we all of a sudden hear a tree crash, uh, but in the distance. And the crash was, you could hear it hit the ground.
mm,
And so we didn't think anything of it, maybe an old tree fall or whatever, and was sitting there. And again, it happened, but it was a little bit closer and louder, and you could
mhm.
hear it hit the ground. And so we looked at each other and like, what is that? And
Yeah.
he thought it was a car on the dirt road. And I said, "That is not a car. That does not sound like a car." And so anyways, it's still quiet, and all of a sudden, another crash. So we must have heard like 3 or 4 crashes, and it's
Yeah.
like on the last crash, it was closer, and it was louder, and you could hear that thump really loud.
Yeah, that's not a car on another road. No.
No, and, well, all of a sudden, a car did drive down the road. I said, "That's a car."
Right.
you can hear the tires on the dirt road because you had to like where you entered, it was a dirt road, and then you had to cross a bridge through the swamp to get out to this field. So we can't see the road from there, but you can hear the cars going up and down it.
Okay.
And yeah, and then all of a sudden it got quiet and I did get very nervous. I'm like, like I moved in the middle of the truck.
Yeah, I would
And
too.
yeah, it was nerve-wracking. And so anyways, as it's silent like that, all of a sudden we hear a bang. It was so loud in the side of the truck, and it literally picked up the truck and moved it sideways.
I would have crapped right there.
I screamed, and I'm like, oh my God, what is that? And my ex is like, I don't know, I don't know. I said, did you just do that? And he said, how am I going to move a truck? And so, anyways, he immediately turned the truck on and he drove it around in a circle in the middle of this field. And we did not see anything. Now, this had to have been like, I think early fall. It was somewhere around there where, like the leaves were already were dropping and stuff.
Right. And you would have
And
seen.
yes, we would have seen anything that hit the truck because of being in the middle of the field. We did not see anything, nothing. And so we got out of there. It made us quite nervous. But there have been
Yeah.
we used to go camping out there, take the kids out there for like a survival camping, and we would hear tree knocks, and I would take pictures and I would see orbs. And I was taking a
That's
picture of our dog back then, and or there was an orb standing, like not standing, but like it was tucked into the wooded area.
right.
So it's like I couldn't tell what it was, and there's no signs or anything there because it was a friend of
That's
mine that owned that land, and it's pretty dense, the woods, and there's like a mountain up in back of it, but it's surrounded by swamps, and then there's like a few brooks that go into each other. We used to go fishing there all the time.
wow. Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, yeah, you're taking the kids on a trip. God.
Yeah, they
Ah,
would get they would get nervous, that's for sure, because it's so dense out there, and you're out there.
yeah.
Like we had them make lean-tos, that's what they slept
Oh,
in.
oh, that's neat.
Yeah, yeah, they had fun. And
Wow.
there's
I'd
like the
like that
habitat
myself.
would be perfect, conditions for a Bigfoot. And it's always been said from the old timers, the old loggers and stuff, that there were Bigfoot out there. I've always heard that. And then,
Yes. In the New
yeah,
England states and stuff like that. Oh, yeah, definitely. We
yeah,
have so many trees. Well, you guys are more New England than we are. We're still New York, but
beautiful piece of like moss land out there too on one side of the swamp. And it's so dense with it's so green. I've never seen anything so green. And that's perfect conditions.
absolutely. Gosh, I would like to be in the woods and something green like that. I
It's
like pictures like
beautiful.
that. Yeah, yes.
Oh yeah,
Gosh,
I can see a Renaissance picture done out there.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
It reminds me of most recently when I was doing TikTok things like a year ago. Actually, it was in October. It'll be a year next month. We'd gone up to take pictures up in the Clayville area, which borders Cedarville, Cedar Lake, things like that. But I was up there and we were probably, I don't know, maybe half an hour. We're amazed at all these pictures that are coming out. We're just parked at the end of the road. And then Mike's in the car and he's taking them from inside the car. And of course, me, I've got to be right out there. And again, like with a lot of Bigfoot things, you've got all those trees all around and then the fields. Of course, why wouldn't they be there? Deer come out in the fields in the evening or early morning. And I heard what sounded like a man growling out loud or bellowing. Bellering's probably the word. It was like a beller slash growl. It reminded me of a bear, but definitely human sounding. And it was just a kind of sound. And I have no explanation for it. And I made a comment, holy beep, and I go, Mike. And he's like, oh, it's a cow. I'm like, it didn't go moo. No, it didn't. This was a yell that was deep, guttural, huge lung capacity. Bear don't get that loud, and they don't sound like they just don't. It was not a bobcat. It was not a dog. This was manly sounding with a lot of air behind its lungs. And then we went back up in the springtime. This time he was getting out of the car. It was what, May? And we had our daughter or my daughter with us, and he was outside this time, and I'm trying to like film different things. Of course, again, live on TikTok. We could hear what sounded like, I don't know, maybe like talking, but it didn't sound, you couldn't make out what it was. It was more like sounds. And it was along the wooded line that we heard it. And I mean, you could point to it in the air, but, and again, my ex lives up there and he was walking the dog at like 2 or 3 in the morning and he clearly heard the same thing I heard. And then he described a whoop. He goes, whoop. And it was funny. I said, yeah, I didn't hear that. But he says, I've watched those shows on TV and I'll tell you, it was Bigfoot. But now you have stuff like right where you are. That's creepy.
Yeah. 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 Kind of makes me nervous, but um, just recently, a friend of mine who is a cop, his wife has friends over in our town here. And just on the other side of where I'm at, there was a gentleman who was letting his dogs out, and he had a flashlight, and the dogs were acting strange. So he shined the flashlight over to the tree line, and he heard or saw it was about 12 to 13 feet tall. He said the Bigfoot or
That's
Sasquatch.
huge.
That is
Oh,
big, but I've heard of them that big too. I mean, I've heard it, from documentaries and stuff, people talking about that. And
yeah.
and then Tom heard the whooping sound, like a Bigfoot sound. It's like no other animal around here.
No.
So, and it was dark, it had to have been, it was either uh late at night or it was early morning, and when it was still dark that he heard it. And
Mm-mm-mm.
plus we've heard knockings,
I wouldn't be going outside.
I don't go out at night. I mean, I'll go out just outside the door and then I'll go back in.
Yeah, I
Too
can
close for
understand why.
comfort. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've had rocks thrown at me, and when I lived up north in Vermont, Caledonia County, I've had rocks, tossed at me, and
Mm-mm.
acorns. And that's when I'd be laying out in the back on the patio, and there was no traffic or nobody walking by at all. Nobody was around. So they came out of nowhere,
Yeah, that's not, yeah. Uh, Squirrels throw nuts, but they don't throw stones. No,
right? Yeah,
I don't know. It is creepy when you get up here. And I'm not saying that the other states and stuff don't have stuff, but when you get to these areas that have all the wooded stuff around the trees and the lakes and all that, you tend to have a lot more sightings of different bizarre creatures. And what not a better place to be? I mean, we've got a lot of UFO activity like you do, and in spots like that. Of course, I often wonder about the grid things, if that has anything to do with anything, but I know back, I don't know, sometime between 2007 and maybe I'll give a window to like maybe 2011 or 2012. I was DJing, and mind you, I drink plain water, and my other half, he always drank soda. So neither one of us were drinking. We had a roadie in the back of the truck with us, and all of a sudden, here he is yelling out, "What the bleep? What the bleep?" And I look up, and everything's black. And whatever this was, it was like that close to the windshield because it didn't bang into the windshield. It was just there. And it looked like bat wings. Again, bat wings. And they were darker, but it was really hard to tell because you're in the country and you have no light from anything. There was no houses. And it covered the whole entire windshield, the span of it. And you couldn't see with the headlights because the wings were in the way. But then it arched its back in and it went up, kind of like Jeepers Creepers, that movie.
Ooh,
And when it went up, as it was going back, I saw man's legs, but they weren't man's legs. They were silver. They had like a silver sheen to them. Um, wasn't an eagle, wasn't a hawk, wasn't a crane. Uh, I don't know what to say it was because I mean the wings were more like bat wings. It kind of almost falls under like man, like I can't even think of the name of Mothman. But who knows? I mean, we didn't see it in the genitalia area, and we didn't see the feet at that point. It was couldn't even see the wings because they blended in with the night. It was just those man-looking legs. And again, it's an area where Bigfoot's been supposedly spotted and heard. UFO sightings. I could go on with stories about that, but we'll save that for another podcast.
right.
And yeah, it's creepy.
It does make you wonder about the grid type of thing, and plus the energy fields in these
Oh,
certain areas.
yes, and you mentioned like the rocks and stuff.
Yeah, because granite, where, up in Caledonia County, all granite, you know, there's granite quarries up there, there's everything.
And that's
And
the
now,
same with that area.
exactly.
Although, matter of fact, my ex's house on the other side of the tree line's quarry. So no wonder there was a UFO there and Bigfoot. But I don't know what kind of stone. I asked him and I couldn't figure out what kind of stone it was. He wasn't sure, but I know like here where we are, we have the Herkimer diamonds. So poses to
It's
be interesting.
definitely does.
Never a dull moment. I know you have the trail cam and stuff. Boy, that would be cool if you had that aimed out front sometime.
Well, yeah, I know. I plan on putting it out front, but mainly to face like the house and the garage or whatever. Um,
Yeah, that would make
but it's
sense.
actually a 360 one, so I'm curious how far around it'll get, if it'll get some of out front too, because it'll be
Now,
high enough.
when he heard it, the whoop sound, um, that was in front of the house, right?
Yeah,
Across the road or
yeah.
mm,
And where that Bigfoot sighting was across the way. Now, I'm
ah,
not sure exactly what part of the area, but it's not far from here.
yep.
So, I know.
Makes total sense. I'm sitting here thinking we need to get Gail another camera.
And we've got enough like we got swamps around here. We got brooks, uh quartz and all that all over.
Yeah, that's
Um,
awesome.
right. And the
Jealous.
and I've got like a little mountain up and back there, and so we have enough animals that come down through. I've seen almost every one of them in my backyard.
And what not a better place for something like a Sasquatch or Bigfoot, whatever you call it, than to, well, for one, they need water, obviously, and
Right.
food readily available. Like I was saying, you have deer and stuff coming in
Exactly.
at night, and mornings, dinner, and
Exactly.
drink all in one spot. But, well, thank you so much.
Well, you're
Thank you.
welcome. This was a
We,
joy.
yes, and we are on all your social media sites and stuff under Origin Unexplained. UNX, no E, PLAINED. And if you want to reach out to us, because we would love to have somebody on here talking. If you have any stories about cryptids, or maybe you want to talk about something that's unusual, bizarre, Philadelphia experiment, concern, anything that's unusual and bizarre, we absolutely love all those topics. And until
Yes.
next time, we'll be on here at least once or twice a week on different platforms where you can hear us. You can also hear just the regular audio as well if you go to Spotify and things. So until next time, make sure you find us on social media sites and stuff and friend us, and definitely email us if you have a story.